Minutes from May 14th, or from June 11th.
What time are we calling the meeting to order?
How about 7:05? Are there any changes or editing? In that case, may I please have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? All in favor? Thank you. We do not have publics to comment, and we move on to the director.
Okay. So I apologize for some reason, somewhere along the line, the report that I sent to you this month was like somewhere in a draft stage. Like I have a completed version, but there are items on there that I know I typed on here that did not get to you because they're not here. So I don't know what happened, and I'm not, because I don't have my laptop, I don't know what else might be missing. But there are a couple of things that I need to bring up. There's some action items that are not in there, particularly one for this quote from BG Mechanical to address a ventilation issue. There are a couple of, so we have these mini, I don't know what you call them, I think they refer to them as cassettes, but they're like mini split, they're essentially mini splits. And
Are you talking about the thing
yeah.
with the four around it and
the
the
big
ceiling?
one, yeah. So there is ductwork up there in the ceiling, and it was discovered there are several units that you can't see. They're up there, but they don't have like the venting. They're not apparent. But they're there's a new company that's doing the servicing. It used to be the company that did the installation. And a new company took over, and in the meantime, when they were going around, like doing their checklist, going, well, we know there are X number of, units that need to have their filters replaced. They're like, we can't find some of them, and it turns out that some of them are like totally hidden away. And when they did find them, they discovered that not only were they hidden away, but that because of the way the ductwork was laid out, you can't, breathe. Because of the way the ductwork is laid out, you can't open them to access the filters. So they need to reroute some of the ductwork so that they can actually open the filters. Yeah. So that is one of their costs. The princely sum of $4,216. Did that go with that did get sent out? Okay, I don't know.
I need to say, like, I feel like every time I hear one of these, it's like in my heart, like, what did we miss when we were building? Like, how? And I know it's not our fault. I know there's nothing any of us could have done, but it's so hard and sad, right? Like,
I mean, all of these things they do. I mean, to push back and not to. I don't want to be like, Phil's surrogate here. But if Phil were here, he would say, this is the kind of thing that probably falls squarely within, the realm of contingency, which we budgeted for and which we largely did not spend. So that's.
No, but it's basically someone who didn't do their job.
Sure. That happens every time that you measure once and cut it wrong rather than measuring twice and cutting it.
Is there an inspector to look over a job to see that it's done from the town?
Yeah.
Is there somebody?
There's a building
There is a building inspector.
There was also the town's project manager, who is a construction dude, who had someone on site during all of the hours that the building was being.
Not all of the hours.
Well,
Most of the time, until a certain point when but I would have thought that the HVAC stuff would have been early enough in the process that you would have been around. So I don't know.
Somebody signed off on something that wasn't done.
And we're finding lots of things like that, and it happened. I guess I just have to rewrap my emotions to like, it happens. Right? And instead of blame, like we all need to like be like, it happens, right?
It happens, and I'm not going to say lots because I honestly, I think that we built a good library, and I would hate for there to be like some sort of,
You're right.
Notion that the library, is faulty fundamentally, but these things have definitely happened, and we discovered through the process that, again, we did do battle with the engineers on certain things, certain costly mistakes that were made over things like lighting, where the lighting plan was, if you've been in the children's playroom or into the teen room, that we have these little pendant lights that hang down, and we discovered that those lights, and those were the only lights in those rooms, and even at full, turned all the way up, it was more like dinner lighting. It wasn't really appropriate for a library, for reading light. So we had to go back and we said, like, this is a big screw up. The light is not strong enough for people to read, particularly in the winter months when there's not sun coming in the windows. And so as I recall it, they ate that cost. They took that one and they said, yeah, that's on us, and they fixed it.
I'm sorry, I'm coming in. These mini splits that are not seen, are they non-functional and then could be functional, or are we just?
I think that they are functioning. I think they are doing something.
They're conveying air or something.
Yeah,
They're like.
I couldn't really tell you exactly what they're doing, but they are functional units that need to be changed, and they just haven't been able to be changed.
It's not like they need to be opened up to be useful. They're doing something at this point in the whole HVAC system.
Yes, but they, as something that has a filter that needs to be changed out, they're probably,
Right.
pretty clogged up because it's been 4
They're
years.
probably like relay ones of some kind. I think.
For the benefit of the town, this at least should be acknowledged that this escaped whoever should have been signing off on this and inspecting to say, was the work done? Obviously, they didn't, and I think some acknowledgement on it. I mean, you don't have to fuss at people or try to find somebody to blame, but someone in charge should know this could have been a major problem that was not caught.
And there's a lot of those. And I think one of the things you should know is that when we built the library, or when you build any municipal building, you have to take the lowest bidder. Like, the state requires that unless you have a reason, unless you can prove solidly that the lowest bidder, like, there's written documentation.
Oh, I've worked
That
at the
they're
state
terrible.
for 30 years. I know
So
that.
we
I
wound
worked
up,
in the Fine Arts Center.
so we wound
I should
up,
say.
right, so we wound up with a builder that had never built in Western Mass, has never built in Western Mass again. A site work contractor who went out of business. Like, we kind of,
Roofer went out of business too?
The roofer?
I don't think we go.
Nothing over.
So,
I just think we should acknowledge it, and
Yeah.
there should be a record of it, that this was not done, and let that be. I don't want to
it's just off.
fuss about it.
It's just off, like, it just is upsetting to me because we were like in between a rock and a hard place, and like people didn't like the builder through the whole process. Or they, the builder wanted to, he would stop me, the builder, and say, well, your husband, because we own a construction company, and he would say, well, we could just sneak this in, and you don't have to have this guy here watching this. I'm like, no. It's like, so, it was tough, and it was hard, and probably there are things that folks in town missed, and we missed, and
I think for the good of the town, it should be acknowledged, and let that be. Don't make a big deal of it, but
Right.
note that this happened.
Well, it is in meeting records. It is something that. How would you like to see that?
I don't know, I just think, you know the process better than I do, but at some point, it shouldn't go unnoticed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I agree, and I think, again, discussing these things in open meeting, making sure that the trustees remain good stewards of the building, don't let things slide, and make sure that the building is functional for years to come. That's really, it's really.
I would start with the town manager and say, we want to acknowledge that this happened in this building. And it's probably nothing.
I wonder
to do
if-
with it.
In the records that Jennifer has, in terms of the construction, if that would be an appropriate place to put documentation about the deficiencies. I can't think of any one person.
Yeah,
I am thinking of a file, and I know that,
I'm not sure that there is, I'm not sure what file they have over there on this project beyond bid documents. I'm not sure.
Also, building inspectors cannot be held liable for anything that goes wrong with buildings.
I'm not asking.
No, I'm
anybody to
just
know.
letting you know, so you know that, that's all. It's just, I'm just kind of,
At this point, I don't expect anything to be done or people to be punished or hand slapped. I just think the town manager or someone in charge should know this happened,
Sure.
just for the record.
So yes, so first off, if possible, I would love to be able to.
do you want me to make a motion?
Certainly.
Where do we want to take the money from before I make the motion?
I think this would still be a construction about.
Construction costs, okay. So I make the motion that we take $4,216 out of construction costs to pay BG Mechanical for this bill.
the proposal has to be done. Second? Second. Any further discussion or conversation? All in favor? Thank you. Next, Patrick.
Okay, and then, so on a similar but larger topic, we do have the report from Gail. I sent it around sometime before I sent around this other document, so I don't know if you've had time to read it. I read it when I first got it. I have not had a chance to reread it. I intended to do that before we came to the meeting, but I do think because this is such an issue of consequence, I think because it also ties in with the solar, I think it might be, I mean, we could certainly talk about it if people have comments, but I do wonder if maybe we want to wait until we also have Jack here, so we have everyone here, so that we can, discuss next steps with everybody, because this is going to be a very consequential discussion.
And I also prefer to have Jack because he's been working on it.
Yeah.
So if there's no rush, I would prefer to wait.
I somehow missed getting this copy. I don't know how.
We read it out loud in my house.
Like 15 pages or whatever.
It wasn't a hard copy, we sent around by email.
I read it.
PDF.
I missed it.
Probably about what day was this? It came to me July 3rd, so I probably sent it July 3rd, but I sent it as soon as I got
It
it.
would be from Gail.
It would be from me, a forwarded email from me. And the other thing is that I think, I believe we still owe these folks some money, while we still owe them some money, we may want to get our full value out of this report. It might be a good idea to ask if the consultant that wrote this report would actually attend the meeting through Zoom, and then we'd be able to ask any questions. He might speak with a little less hedging, as was is in the report, and just give us a kind of like, well, this is just my brutally honest opinion. That might be helpful to us. I mean,
It's pretty wishy-washy report.
there's a lot of caveats in there.
I think that's a good idea.
A lot of things he did say that should have been done and weren't done as well. So it's just like when you go to look at the future, he's like, I don't know, you could do this, but maybe you want to do that,
So many options.
So many options.
That's why we paid you.
So then Patrick, is that something that you're gonna do, is ask the consultant to have a Zoom meeting or do you?
If everyone agrees that that's a good
Yeah.
idea, then yeah, I would try to get it for the next meeting.
And have Jack here, yeah.
Wait, we are having a meeting now
Yeah,
in
let's,
office? Is that,
let's pause and talk.
sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
If we have a meeting in August, it would be on the 13th, the second Tuesday. Assuming there are no holidays that otherwise interfere with my posting the agenda.
What's the holiday? Holidays? I have no comment.
Are you away?
I'm away, but I can Zoom if that's available.
Sure. I can make that work.
Yeah.
It would probably be better not to postpone this beyond August. I mean, just since they've completed the
I agree.
report and do it sooner
Yeah,
rather than
I
later.
think so, too.
Well, we have on occasion taken a vacation from board meetings in August, but maybe this one will just be short and sweet. So let's,
So we're tabling it until August 14th.
yes,
And we'll make sure Jack can make it.
yeah.
And Rob Patrick, you're gonna call.
Yeah. Clarification, Patrick, when you said we still owe them money, you mean the Gale people, not the roofing people?
Yeah,
Okay.
just for,
Right.
for the report.
Right, just for the
They-
report,
they-
okay.
They build on, like, on monthly cycles, so the
Right.
work that they were doing in whenever May, we paid for, while they were writing the report, they sent another. I actually think there may still be an outstanding fee that will come due sometime in July, but I'm not, I have to go back and look at the billing. So they may be on the hook with us for a little while, but I think we really should, just take advantage of what we're paying for, because we're, that's why we're paying. But yeah, I will contact them and make sure that someone can attend that meeting. Great. And then the other item here that I wanted to ask the trustees to take action on was expenses related to the redesign of the website. The library website will, the way I'm envisioning a new website for the library is that it will be it's sort of broken into three main components. Obviously, the library catalog, all of the CWMR stuff. I say that even though it's not something that's under our control, but how we display it within the context, how people find things is within our control. And for the most part, library patrons don't make a distinction between what's our website, what's CWMR's. They just see it all as one resource. So it is going to be a component, but that's one functional component. There is the kind of basic informational component of the website, which is just your hours, your address, our meeting minutes, our, just that basic operational stuff, the frequently asked questions.
How to,
What's that?
how to donate?
How to donate, exactly, yeah, many important things. But they're basically, for the most part, they're sort of static, and they don't change much until they need to be changed, and then you change it, and then you're done. And then the third component is and to me, this is kind of the meat of the sandwich, which is the calendar. And we have been evaluating some calendar software from various vendors. There are lots of different options for this functionality within the website, from doing something extremely simple like embedding a Google Calendar, and there are many other products out there as well, simple and complicated. And so the one that we actually liked the best, and which got very good reviews from the folks, and I can turn the air conditioner down too, if you guys,
I like it.
you like it, okay. Just let me know. Is something called Library Calendar by a company called Library Market. And they are doing, we did a demo with them about a month ago. The guy is the president of the company he did the demo himself. It's a small startup. He's a former librarian himself, so he's from this world, and they're doing this. This product is marketed directly for use by libraries because they know exactly, they're from that world and they understand the needs quite well. So it's not something that's been designed for a number of different purposes, and it might work for a library. It's been designed for a library. And the libraries that I spoke to that are using it, all the folks from the folks that are kind of administratively overseeing it, to the people that are the staff members that are creating the events and the listings for it, they all have said that this is a good piece of software. So it comes with a cost, of course. So there are one-time costs for the installation and the setup of this, and there are annual costs. And so the upfront costs, which are the costs for setting up and are one-time, would be $3,500. And thereafter, we would be paying an annual fee of $1,500. On top of that, and this is not to do with library calendar per se, but if we're hosting our own website, we're going to have to pay for hosting costs. So it seems like it is going to cost in the first year to set this all up and get it done. It's going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 or less. And so my proposal is to pay using WICMEC state aid funds to get this project off the ground and up and running by the end of the year. There's a from the point where we sign the agreement, which if the trustees vote to do that, I will sign that agreement tomorrow and return it. They have to, the turnaround time is that it doesn't just start, on day one. It's going to take we get into a queue while they, work through the people ahead of us, and they'll be getting to us later in the year. So I don't remember exactly what the timeline was, but it was probably going to be like 3 or 4 months before that goes live. So my goal would be to, in the meantime, while that is being set up, that on our end we're doing all the part of the informational part of the website and getting that ready to go, so that this whole thing goes live at one time with the calendar. Just the whole thing happens at one time with the new website, then a new functional calendar, and it happens in an orderly fashion later this year. So my request is that the trustees approve $6,000 for this purpose from state aid.
For the $1,500 a year maintenance fee, what do they do?
Well, you're paying for their product. I mean, they do support. They do have customer support, and by all accounts, the support is very responsive. So you are getting the support on their machinery, just like any other piece of machinery.
And updates. I mean, no software is static.
Yeah.
And so you're paying for updates along the way as well as the support.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a question about, and maybe you said it and I didn't hear it, about booking rooms. Like,
Oh.
That's separate.
Well, so what's interesting, so because we still don't know what's gonna actually happen here with that. Like, we don't know what software is coming with this system. Is there software? I have no idea. So one of the costs here is that this is an optional cost, but I'm thinking that it's a good idea for us to do it, is that you can pay for an integration with the library system. In our case, it's called Evergreen. That you will be able to, when someone wants to book a room, that they need to have a valid library card that is in good standing, not expired, not with $5,000 in lost materials, but that's an extra cost. We can't roll it out on day one with the rest of this stuff, but that is part of what we would be getting with this.
so the envision would be that the room booking would be a separate link somewhere on that website. And the cost of that room booking software might be an additional cost that we have to pay, right? I'm not complaining, I'm just asking.
I don't know what the cost, I presume that there is going to be some sort of an annual cost.
Of course there is,
but
right,
I believe that probably, I don't know how that's going to get paid for, because I think that whatever is happening with the access software is also applicable to all the other town buildings that are going to have swipe systems to let staff in. Generally it's going to be staff, not public. But I think there's going to be some cost there. No one has ever sent us a briefing saying, guess what, it's going to cost. Which is why I'm thinking with most other building and facilities costs, they're elsewhere in the town budget. And again, I don't know, I just don't have any details on how that's going to work. But I don't think that part of it is going to be in our budget. But this authentication, this making sure that people are in good standing, and that they, this is a way of making sure that people are using the room, that are part of the library system, part of the library community, that they have, that they are library users as opposed
So
to.
then the room would not be available to just general community access?
No, it would be as long as you had a library card. the library card would be, you know, the mechanism by which, you know, just like anything else, like what, I mean, the books are available to the general community, but they have to have a library card to borrow them, you know, to
In the
access these
past,
sources.
we had groups come in that had no.
But you could have a library card in Amherst and use
Yeah,
it here.
you don't need to have an
You
affiliation.
just need
per
to have
se.
a library card.
You
So
need to
I'm thinking
have a
of-
Massachusetts library card,
Well,
is
so
what we're
remember
saying.
that vaccine group that came in and, like, did one of them have a library card?
Well, at that point, we weren't, I mean, we do everything on paper now, you know, we do have the policy, we have the agreement. Again, as a matter of process, I'm not exactly sure how this is gonna work until I know more about the system, about the, you know, the access system.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is a component that we may find that it's too cumbersome to do. We may find that there are reasons that why we want to unlink, you know, having people's library cards as part of this process.
Is this what other libraries do?
Some do, yeah.
Some.
I think it's a way of tracking and like
Yeah.
making sure, like, say something happens in the room, somebody has to be responsible for it.
Well, you do have the agreement, you should, you know, we should have that either way, but I think this is a good check and balance because it means that people are, by having a library card, I mean, this is a value judgment on my part, that this sort of indicates that you're part of the community, that you know, you're a library user and you're using library resources, so I don't think it's you know, out of line to ask people to have that.
This is not a must, it's just a question. I mean, the use of the space is always free, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we never charge.
But you can't put money in
You can't, I'm sorry?
You can ask for donations.
You
and
can
things like
ask for
that.
it.
donations.
You can't have a paying.
Yeah, I was in a group where we were looking for free space a lot of the times, and we would, I remember, I think it was the South Hadley Library, there were a couple where the first time you used it, it was free, and then after that, you were asked to pay some amount. So,
How many rooms do you rent? This one?
well, they don't rent any, actually.
Well, I mean, there are three.
Can't people use?
Yeah.
There are 3 rooms that are generally available. This room, the meeting room that's right there off the foyer by the inner doors, and then there's a local history room just across the main hall from that. That was never really envisioned to be a reservable space, and I think in the after-hours scheme, that room is not going to be available for people to use. That's only available when we're open and it can be supervised. But right now, in the current scheme of things, since all rooms are only available when we're open, there are essentially 3. There are 3 rooms that people can use for
So
any
this
purpose.
is beyond library staff to handle. You need an outsider to rent these 2 rooms.
No, you contact the library to do this. At some point, though, this will be something that theoretically you should be able to do online. You should be able to book this. Go to the library website, you know, enter your library card and reserve the room. at
So
the
that's
time.
the advantage of paying these people to do that.
That is an added part of the cost. That's like an added functionality that I would recommend that we have the ability to implement.
It would certainly relieve you of the burden of doing the administration of the booking, et cetera.
But this software doesn't do that. I might have confused everyone, like,
Yeah.
we're not there with that yet. This doesn't, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
This doesn't.
the actual, the ability to give someone physical access to this building after hours without staff here, that
Does not
does not
exist.
exist. The hardware is here, we're waiting for the town's big fiber project to go live and connect all of the buildings and for all of for the equipment that's here to be operational. It is not operational right now. And it has not been for 4 years since we've moved in, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Our association had a meeting here. Did they go through the library to?
Yeah, somebody called.
So
And
this
said-
is something, I guess what I'm trying to get at, is this something that is so, that you need to pay an outsider to do rather than having library staff do it?
If you sat in the staff room like I do for however many hours a week, and you saw how frequently people call and the amount of time it takes them to, well, what dates are you looking at? Are you going through, flipping the pages? Well, you could have it at this time, but you can't have it at that time. There would be a significant amount of time to do other things recaptured.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and put it this way, this is a layer of work. There's pros and cons to doing this, to automating something, because you're just like, this is the reason that that we've never pursued having self-checkout, for instance, for checking out books. Because there's so many things that happen in a person's library record that are going to require you to go over and intervene. Think about self-checkout at the grocery store. When somebody doesn't scan, someone just got to come over and scan their badge.
The guy stands there.
Or you want to buy a bottle of wine in the self-checkout, and they got to come over and they have to intervene. There's so many things like that that you might as well just deal with the human.
That's
It's just
what I
a-
keep trying to tell Whole Foods, you know.
Yeah,
It's better just to have a cashier.
exactly. So
That's
but there are some things here that in this building, in a facility like this that has these kinds of meeting rooms, our staff is incrementally getting a little bit bigger. It's getting a little more robust, and we're having the ability to have staff that are getting more, focused on one piece of the pie as opposed to the way it was in the past where everybody did a little of everything. Now we're having people that are more concentrated on working on the desk and working on, but when we were in the old building, this is a layer of work that we never had to contend with. Now we're like facilities people. We deal with, we're letting people use rooms. We're then having to help them with, facilitate technology and everything else. And so anything that we can do to make this easier for not only the staff, but also for the public to navigate this, to make it easy for them to just get on the website and, type in their barcode and reserve the room that they want to use. I'm in favor of it.
That's what I wanted to
I also
understand.
want to argue is kind of the vision, right? Like when we built the library of having these rooms for after hours, the library was designed. so that-
Intended to be a community center,
Yes.
or a center for the community.
We designed the library so that you could access these two rooms after hours and not have to go in the library. And so I feel like we need to make that as accessible as possible for people. That
That's
way-
what I wanted to understand.
Yeah,
It's
which is
more
a reasonable
accessible
question, yeah.
To do that, and the staff doesn't need it, and that it's busy. That's what I wanted to understand.
Am I correct in thinking, because I didn't look at all of the sample screens on this, that there will be, when someone enters information to make a reservation electronically, is there a level of review before that is confirmed?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also just want to make sure, like, I'm sure you did due diligence, like, I love that you talked to other libraries. Was there like a range of options, or a range of costs, like, what happened that led you to this as opposed to?
Yeah, so we looked at this one and we looked at, I'm not going to, I'm not
It doesn't
remember the
matter.
name, but we looked at another one. There were basically two that people seem to be gravitating towards. There was one, these guys are somewhere else in the country, I don't know where they are, but there's another one that's more like a local company, like a local startup that's doing this. And we got less positive feedback on this. And I actually sent that email out to the other libraries after we did the demo, because we all sat around after the demo and talked about what we had seen. And I said, well, what do you guys think? And what do you have concerns, or the things that are not there? And uniformly, we were all like, no, it does everything that we think it should do. And we were, and at that point I was like, this has got to be too good to be. I'm going to poll other people and find out. And then they were like, no, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It does what you want it to do. And everyone that uses it it's not like a steep learning curve to use it. And they said that the customer support was good. So we were like,
What was the other one? You didn't get a price quote?
I didn't get a quote, well, no, we did get a quote, it was less, I can't remember what I can't quote the amount, but it was less, but we didn't like it as much. And we didn't get the same kind of stellar,
Yeah.
reviews. Because when I did ask about, I think the way I asked it was, I asked if people were using this software, but I also asked if they were using something else that they, what are you using that you like? And we didn't get like a lot of other stuff other than some of the people that were using that competitor, but they were more iffy about it. So.
Well, I'm excited and I would like to make a motion. I know it's an expense, but I think it's something we've really talked about for a long time. And the town website is really not,
It's horrible.
yeah, it's not here for a library
Yeah.
or library use. And I think we are an information center. We should have
Yeah.
really good things. So I'd like to make a motion to take that out of Lake Bank funds. I think Lake Bank is a good place to take it from.
Seconded.
So the wording will be to expend up to $6,000 in league bank funds for this. Any further comments or questions?
And I would word it that it's for the creation of the website itself, because there's more like hosting fees are in there as well. So it's the website generally, but the library calendar.
For
is
costs
expense.
related to the library
Yeah.
calendar.
Or library website.
Because that's more encompassing the website, it's not just a calendar.
Yeah.
And this covers the installation costs plus the yearly fees.
And the
For first
hosting.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hosting.
and the hosting, which is a separate expense. No, it has nothing to do with library calendar, the hosting will be up to us to set up.
Right. But you need someplace to put the library calendar in our website.
Yeah.
So that's the way that works. Okay.
All those in favor?
All in favor? Thank you.
Great, thank you. I will also mention that going back to building things, there's not an action item, but the glazing of the windows was completed. And we do have a bill for that. So hopefully our windows are all nice and waterproof up on, the upper clear story windows.
And the town's building manager said he was impressed by the quality of the work.
Remind me again who it was.
The contractor,
Oh, yes, the window was.
it was done by the Zott
Yeah.
Glass. I think that's it. The one other thing that I would mention is that we do have a new staff member here, and some of you may have met her. Her name is Cynthia Coffin. She is a staff member, a part-time staff member over at Shutesbury, has experience working at the Athol Public Library. Actually, she goes by Cindy, I have come to learn. So there's going to be another new face behind the circulation desk that you may have run into. And she's going to be mostly on the desk doing desk work, circulation work.
Do you spell her name?
Coffin.
And she's part-time.
Yep. She'll be here on Saturdays and Wednesday evenings.
The minutes had the children's playroom wall repair on them.
I don't have an update. The last that I heard, the company that is doing the restoration work in the room wanted the engineer to come back for some reason to look at something, and I don't exactly know what's up, but I think that they're still in the problem-solving phase of this.
Have they stopped the leak that caused while they're deciding what to do?
I don't think there was a.
So in that case, that wasn't a leak, but what happened was a car hopped the curb and hit the wall outside of the wall, the exterior wall of the little children's playroom, and kind of shoved in. There's like these.
So there was no breakthrough?
It cracked the wall and it kind of shoved the concrete panel in, and they've got to figure out a way of pushing the concrete panel back out without disturbing like the inner construction of the wall.
I was conflating the two issues, I think.
Yeah, so that's still in progress, and I don't have an update about when it will be complete.
Okay. Patrick, do you want to say anything about lead certification since?
Oh, yeah. So I had reached out to Phil a couple, not actually at this point, I've lost track of when it was, but it was probably a month ago, at Jack's request, because he had some specific questions that he wanted me to ask Phil, and I said I would do it and CC him on the email. And mainly it was about like the lead process. I think these questions came out in the last meeting, now that I think about it. It was about like what are the remaining costs, like what are we on the hook for? And so I sent that email, did not get a response, but in the meantime, an invoice arrived from JRA saying for the current period, I think I actually have it here, for the current period, we were billed for $4,200 for lead submission. No, maybe I don't. I don't have it because it was in my set of bills to pay. But essentially, what it indicated was that some action had been taken relative to lead. So I'm assuming that was having the thing submitted. But I haven't gotten a confirmation from Phil about that. So I guess he must have, but I'm assuming he felt comfortable enough with our prospects to submit under the current scheme of things. And I don't know if he was privy to some information about, like, well, do it now or don't do it at all, because maybe the money, the incentive money from the state is, well, whatever it is, it's, a long time is passing since we would have done this in a normal scenario, so.
Would you just maybe send Phil a quick email and ask him what exactly the status is and what remains to be done?
Who's Phil? I'm sorry.
Phil
Phil's
was the
our
architect.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Coming into all this.
You might say that we would like to know about the prospects for it happening. Because we could know that before our next meeting.
Oh, yeah. Anything else about the lead certification? Joining in strategic planning.
So I did send late today in your inbox, mostly because I wanted Sue to have it, so she had less to type. So the community and the staff each met and completed a SOAR and a SWOT, right? So each of those groups met.
What's a sword?
So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then SOAR is the modern version of that. Like what's great about the library, what we want to change about the library. We kind of assembled a group to do that. Patrick and I met, took all that information into consideration, and came up with 3 big main topics. And our idea is that we would like, well, let me tell you the topics. We'd like to survey on, the first topic will be staffing, services, and collection. The second would be library as a community commons. And third would be resiliency, like how well are we prepared for the future? So those are the 3 things we'd like to think about for the long-range plan. So now the next steps we would like to take is to survey the community. And Patrick had a really good idea, I thought, about having this like month of surveys. So in August, we would have the week of August 12th, we might have the staffing, services, and collection survey out. And we would really push people to fill out that survey. We might have link QR codes. We'd ask patrons as they came in, maybe we could have a station set up. We'd put it on the town website. We'd get as much response as we could. Then the 19th, we'd do maybe library as a community commons. And then the 26th of August, we'd start the resiliency one. So we'd work through these 3 surveys. And we would like to have as a carrot for people to take the surveys, and we did this with our last long-range plan, a $50 gift certificate, like a random drawing. So we would need $150 for 3 survey prizes for the 3 surveys. We would take, go ahead.
What does resiliency cover?
So, do we have enough money for the future? How is our building for the future? What the future? We're like, are we prepared for the future? Technology, like those kinds of things we kind of lumped into resiliency.
What do you imagine asking patrons
So,
under that category?
so we haven't written the survey, we haven't
Well,
completed the
we
surveys
have,
yet.
actually, there are some questions that are under these categories, but I'm envisioning things like, these are kinds of questions that you would ask somebody, like how willing would you, or how interested would you be in perhaps donating to the library? How interested would you be in volunteering at the library? Not because we're asking, we want people, just to get a sense of like, where do people want to contribute to, you know, to the library? Do they want to do it with time? Do they want to do it with money? Do they want to do it with, you know, serving as a trustee or board? And so sort of getting the sense of you know, community sentiment towards the future of the library.
Helpful.
And then, I'll just finish then. And then we would take the results of these and have focus groups in September, and then start to write the plan in October. So that's kind of where we are.
I just have a question about August. Is it the best time to start doing this? A lot of people are away in August. I mean, September people are back, their kids are in school and using the library more.
I think our only question right now is really, and this is one of those things that that if Allison, Dr. Benton were here, we would ask her. Allison was, you know, is a statistician, and she was, you know, working trustee for a long time. And whenever we had one of those questions, we would ask Allison. So I think one of those things that we would like to figure out is what is going to be an adequate sample size for this project to get reliable results. Because if we find that the sample size is under a certain amount, then, or is over a certain amount that seems unattainable, then your concern might be very justified. But we have, even in August, we have, you know, very often 100, 150 people coming through the library on a daily basis. So it doesn't really seem like that much of a stretch. It's not like people have, you know, stopped.
We also have a lot of I feel like we have a lot of programming
Yeah.
and events here at the library that draw people in August. So yeah, we were gonna do that, but we also kind of felt like we need to like make it happen at some point, right? Like, one of the nice things was when we had a long-range plan, it became really easy for the trustees to have a vision of what the trustees would be doing. Like, we were able to have a long-range plan. It helped Patrick know what his goals would be. Like, us not having a long-range plan right now kind of, you know, it's not like, when Patrick and I went back and looked at our old long-range plan, it was like, we did all these things, like this happened, and it kind of I feel like it united all fronts on the, like, what we were working for.
How long ago was that?
We did it before the building was built.
I think it was done in 2015, and it's a 5-year plan, so it was valid until about 2020. So that was when we were in the middle of construction, and all of the chaos that entails. But I was pleasantly surprised that, and also, just to repeat it, I may have said this in a previous meeting, but the long-range plan is something that you file with the Board of Library Commissioners, and that having that plan on file is part of what enables you, makes us qualified to apply for grants through the state. They want to see that you're organized, that you're thinking about these things, and by having these things on file, and then you file updates and things over the years to show your progress. That indicates that you're serious and that you're, you know, that they're going to give you the resources that they have to move forward. And that's how we got our building. That's how we got our construction grant, by putting that building block in place. To follow on Joanne's point, I was in reading it, because I hadn't looked at it in a long time. And reading it again, it was actually very funny because, as Joanne said, it was like, oh, we did this, but it wasn't like we sat there and like made a checklist and did it. It was just like, wow, we actually accomplished all these things and we didn't even know we were doing it, you know?
I think because we spent that time talking about it and it became our focus. I also, you should know that there's a copy if you want to look at it. There, I think Patrick has it right now.
I have a physical copy, and we've also got a copy that can be sent around like digitally. I can send you the file, but either way, you can look
I'd
at
like to
it.
see it.
Sure,
Sure.
sure, that would be
Not a
great.
problem.
Yeah, and it's a great document because it also shows the methodology. It shows all of the documents, all the instruments that we use to collect information from people, the surveys and the results of those surveys and discussions. So it's a great thing to look back on.
It could be valuable to have.
It was, I worked on it and I didn't hear that long. I think it was a good thing that we did together, like
It's okay to
some-
pat yourself on the back. It's good.
No, I wasn't. I was
Like
actually
this.
saying yikes. I can't believe it. But I felt like it was good for us. I thought it was a good uniting front. And when I came back to the board, I was like, I think this is also, thinking back to your question about money, one of the things I feel like, and I'd like to work on next as a trustee when I'm done working on this, is that then it gives us the opportunity to raise funds, right? Because it really feels like right now, we could try to raise funds, but if we have a long-range plan, it really lets us open the gates, have like maybe, let people know here's what we're raising for, here's what the future's like. People ask questions like that when you donate. So I feel like it puts us on good ground, and I think we need to reignite our fundraising for the future. So we were asking this group for approval on $150 for the gift certificates.
I move that we approve $150 for the gift certificates for the survey. From, I don't know
Well,
where from.
that's,
Probably like there. Okay.
that's fine,
Okay.
that's fine.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Director's annual review. I have given you lots and lots of documents. What the staff said, what the trustees have said, and what the director has said. I think the short answer is, it was an incredibly busy year, and there were some genuine hurdles. And fortunately, the hurdles turned into opportunities, and that we are now in an even better place than we were certainly a year ago. And I think that's not just on the personnel front. I think the fact that until this month, I think our use numbers have all continued to increase, and that is not sustainable over forever.
We'll see. Yeah.
Well, there was a little bit of a decrease.
I actually think that was, I can't say this for sure, but I think that was as a result of there being less open days, less days of operation, just the way the calendar falls. There were a few days less in the month, I think, than some other months, like than the comparable month last year. So I think that may explain it, but, because if you look at
But
the
even still, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be,
no, it can't always go up.
no.
It can't, but, yeah.
I think in summary, the staff members clearly are fond of Patrick and enjoy working with him. There are a couple of small areas, but progress on those has been made, and certainly given the proposed direction Patrick's talking about, but now that we have added another circulation desk person, that will allow other folks to take on more responsibilities specific to the titles and roles that they have, which had not, I don't think, happened to the extent that they would have preferred. And I think the question about meeting schedules, in general, the folks who completed, the trustees who completed the evaluation were complimentary. There were, I think, different takes on whether or not the goal had been completed. So that in some cases, some people said something was completed and others said, no, but it's incomplete because there were pieces missing outside of his control. I don't see any red flags anyplace, and I think I mentioned that overall, if you average all of the things, it was 4.1, which is very good, and I think that deserves a pat on the back. I would just like to say, Patrick, I think you did an extraordinary job essentially putting together an annual report in covering all of the topics that you did in your sort of self-reporting of things. Thank you. And I am absolutely happy to listen to any other comments that anyone else would like to add or subtract, or if you think that I didn't characterize something. I will just briefly mention that because of the way the trustee members have shifted, I had asked Jessica, who went off the board in May, if she would still contribute. And she did. And she also had complimentary things to say in terms of, growth and increased use and being able to manage that additional workload as well as progress on the goals. So,
I just want to say too that I feel like, and I actually said this to Patrick before we came here, so I feel like I don't know if it was the way you and Susan established the goals or if it was like, but it was great that every month I felt like Patrick was reporting on the things I then had to grade him on, right? Because then I got to the grading part, to the review, and I was like, oh yeah, he's talked about this every month, so I know what's going on with this goal. I know what's going on with this goal. It was really easy to complete and feel good about knowing, as opposed to things that we don't know, like we're not in the, like you were in the library a lot, but we're not all here a lot. And so I felt like kudos, and I'm not, maybe to both sets of you, to Patrick for reporting, but also for pulling together goals that were really clear and easy for us to see the difference.
reporting on progress on
Yeah.
the goals regularly.
Yeah, but also setting goals that were able to be.
Well, we did that jointly. We did that last November, December.
Yes,
Okay.
well, I'm saying, I think it worked really well. That's,
Yes, I think that was helpful.
And on the, sort of on the flip side of that, I'll just reiterate it because I think you can't say it too much, but it really, how should I put this? I certainly do put things in reports, and I try to be comprehensive, and I try to let people know what's going on. But some of these things are complicated. We only meet once a month. Situations change. I get new information all the time, and it is great to speak with you all individually in between meetings. It's great. I personally have no problem. I welcome it for people to just walk in, call, email with a thought, with a comment, a question, and just get a sense of like whatever it is that they're thinking about. If you're spending time thinking about something relative to the library, and you feel like it's a discussion we should have, just stop by or call. I'm always happy to have those conversations. And that's really how I feel like I work best with the board, when I know that I'm fully engaged with all of the individual members of the board, and we're working on things in different areas of our operations. So please make don't be a stranger.
I was very impressed with the thoroughness of the evaluations, and being from academia where you get evaluated every year, and everybody has to evaluate everybody else, and they can walk down the hall and see the next day. I was very impressed that it was honest and it was clear and very positive. I'm just, from an outsider, I was just extremely impressed.
It was a good, productive year,
Yeah.
I think. I agree. Any additional comments or observations? Susan, do you want to say anything?
No, the only thing, when I looked back on it, and I think Patrick, you talked about this too, what I might have done differently is the items that were complicated by other forces, things that you could control, the town's response to the fiber optics or the door counter or any of those things that we put in for goals. I think as a caveat for me in the future, just to keep in mind that evaluating someone on things out of their controls doesn't feel fair. To say that
But I think we had that conversation last December, and I think the goal was knowing that Patrick did not necessarily have it entirely within his power.
but
It was
somebody coming and looking in on it doesn't
Oh,
know
okay.
the history of those things. So to have it in writing and filed, if someone else were on the board and would look at that and then wonder,
That's a fair point.
why didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, if somebody
Yeah,
can
I-
think of a way to, because we are still going to have the access an issue going forward.
So then, but then should it be a personal goal of his?
Well, okay, I'm asking, where does that go? So it's still at the top, so it doesn't get lost in the weeds, so it,
So I see it as an additional item at the bottom that's noted as things that continually need to be worked
Okay,
on out of
that's-
his control.
that's fine.
I think that I just think that the word complete was confusing. Like, I think even if it said something else, like, as, taken as far as the director could, I don't have the word right now, right?
Just progress.
So I checked complete even when something wasn't complete, because I felt like he completed it as far as he actually could.
Right, but the wording of the way it was done, I felt like
Yeah.
didn't reflect
I
that
agree,
from a-
I agree, yeah.
From a non-knowledgeable person.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, hi, I come into this completely from the outside, didn't fill out the form, but reading the evaluation and your responses, I really felt that it was very clear that there were things that were maybe originally a goal but could not be completed because, the door camera didn't work or other things that were, it was pretty clear to me that you weren't being evaluated on these things because they weren't part of something that was in your control. So, that's the way I read the report from the outside.
okay. But I think I'm perfectly happy to segregate those kinds of things. I don't know, do you want to call it an objective or a pipe dream?
Or even just to say, as best as Patrick is able to, continue working on a door counter that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the roof and the door are going to be with us.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that these things maybe, they just need to be couched in a broader language, in categories that are sort of like, well, these are facilities issues, these are, I mean, having the goal be as specific as implementing a patron counting system is kind of, that's pretty specific. But, yeah, I mean, it's something that, you try things, some of them work, some of them don't. Sometimes the hardware that you buy isn't what it's cracked up to be, and you have to go back to the drawing board. But I think as long as everyone is like sort of, I understand your point that in the historical record, that when someone goes back, if they ever do, to excavate this, they would look at it and they wouldn't have the context and they wouldn't understand. So I think that is actually a fair point, and I never really thought of it that way, but I think it is true. But I think in the present, I always feel like, or I tend to believe that as long as we are all acting in good faith with one another in terms of the evaluations, that's why I always go to I put so much attention to detail in writing about these categories, what I did in that year, what worked, what didn't work, what was a disappointment, what is just a stepping stone towards something better in the future. And so, again, I don't really sweat these evaluations too much, because again, I feel like the more that we're engaged with each other in our work, the more that everybody's clear-eyed about what's going on, and it's all going to be reflected in the results here.
I mean, my other perspective on it is that if something were to happen to you tomorrow, and we had to
Sure.
hire an interim immediately,
Yep.
then would that person have the same connections or capabilities or, knowledge to carry on sort of goals of the library, and so to throw somebody into a situation where there's things out of their own control.
Yep.
Concerns me.
Yep. That's a fair point.
Okay, then the next thing is, would we like to propose goals for FY '25?
Yeah,
Is
there a way to wait till we have a long-range plan and then the goals can come from that? Or should one of the goals be to complete the long-range plan?
I think work on the long-range plan should definitely be on the list.
So it should be completed before December, so that should be okay beyond
Right, but again, that's not entirely Patrick's responsibility, because you're playing a significant role. If you go skiing and break your leg, then, things might get screwed up. So, I mean, although, the other alternative is if calamity befalls somebody, then everything is up for grabs.
I mean, I don't think you necessarily would have to word it as like complete the long-range plan. I think you could just say, just like it does in the job description, participates in the completion of these kinds of documents or these kinds of planning processes. But I mean, I personally think it would be good, and I should have probably made some notes on this, but I did not for this meeting. But I think it would be good, because I think for the goals to be most meaningful, I would like to participate in the goal setting and give you my ideas on what some of those goals should be. Not all of them, but like certainly some of the ones that I think are important, so that you folks can either agree or disagree, and that acts as a starting point, but as one set of things that I see as priority, and then you add to those priorities with things that I might not have thought of, and then we get a set of goals that way.
That seems fair.
I have this document, potential fiscal year 2024 goals from various people.
Right.
And I wonder if this is something you're talking about now, or what?
That was a planning document for the goals that were just completed or unable to complete. That was just to give you an idea of what we had worked with last December, because we didn't get around to setting the goals until after the contract was signed, and that took a while. So those were just examples of the planning process that we used to identify the goals for the fiscal year that just ended. Those are not necessarily ones that will be repeated for FY '25. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. So what I'm hearing is we should maybe wait until next month, and Patrick can get some of his ideas down, and I will take my list and come back with it again. And maybe it would be helpful if I have suggestions from everyone a week or so in advance of the meeting, so I can collate.
I feel like I'd like to see so I guess I think about teacher goal setting, right? Like we set our own goals. For me personally, I would like to hear what Patrick has to say. Like I would like them to come from Patrick more than us. So I don't know that
Can we-
before I would have.
What about
much.
this as a suggestion, because I would like to incorporate your individual ideas into it. Some of them may be things like, that's something that I'm already thinking about, but maybe you're thinking about it from a different angle than what I'm thinking about it from, and maybe there's a way to then write the goal up that it, is broad enough to be useful, but it incorporates the specific thinking that people want to see reflected in that document. So I guess what I'm suggesting is, if there's no objection to doing so, why not send me some of these ideas individually? If you have some things that you're thinking of, whether they're very specific or whether they're broad, just send me those ideas and I'll put them into that mix, and then we can review it together in August.
That seems very reasonable to me, and I thought that's what this was, that we were together setting goals and
Yeah.
agreeing on them, and that would be the stipulation for the goals for the future. That makes sense to me.
No, that's fine. That was slightly different, but that's okay.
So we send them to you?
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay, I think it would be a good way to live.
I doubt that I, as the newbie, will be sending many, but I think that's a good process.
No, but based upon what you have heard in the conversations and all of the documentation that you had with respect to the annual review and what the goals were for the last fiscal year, you might think of something to either repeat or add. And I think, if you say strategic plan and so does Joanne and so do I, then that reinforces the appropriateness of having something like that on the list. So how about if we say that everyone sends their stuff to Patrick by August 1st, which is a Thursday?
Is that the week you're away?
I'll be back. That would be great, but also, if you think of something after August 1st, don't hesitate to say.
Right, no, but just so that you have the bulk of the
Yeah,
information.
I would
And
appreciate
then
that.
can do
That's
something
good, but yeah, for sure.
so that it can be distributed maybe in advance of the director's report rather than just incorporated in the director's report. And we'll go from there. Anything else on that topic? Then the last item is to make an amendment to the current contract for employment with Patrick. And all it does is propose changing the word May to December in order to calculate the cost of living increase. And the reason for doing that is because December is when the budget is prepared. And yes, it does sort of throw things out of synchronization, and it, you know, depending what kind of havoc or whatever is wreaked between December and May in terms of the economy. So there's always going to be kind of a lag time, but this allows Patrick to calculate what the number is and to incorporate that into the budget for the coming year. And he and I talked about this, and it's essentially what he did this year anyway, and we agreed that it would be best to amend the contract, which we are able to do with everyone's agreement.
Okay, so we're going to propose a change of wording from May to December or December to May? It's currently written as
May, and it will say December. Did you ever hear from Joan?
I did, I went and talked to her about this, and now I don't remember what she said.
I'm confused, I hate to bring this up again, I'm just confused because, isn't that what we did last time?
And I feel
And
like we
then,
talked about this already.
Like, I feel like this was the problem, right? Wasn't this part of the whole?
Isn't that what she just said, that we changed it last year to December?
Because it was out of sync with the rest of the town budget and when the town voted on budgets.
When we wrote the new contract, rather than just accept whatever cost of living increase the town decided, there was a proposal that was accepted at the time to calculate a sort of moving average of the cost of living increase. And rather than have that period to calculate it end just before the contract goes into effect, which is the way the language in the original contract is written, that doesn't align with the budgeting process. The idea initially had been to get the most recent cost of living information and then start paying it 2 months later. But we can't make that work that way. So we are backing it up to determine what the cost of living increase would be based on information through December, through November, to determine in December. I'm not sure when in the month that information is published or calculated, but so it's really just a housekeeping measure.
Who calculates that figure?
Federal government.
We're
The Social
talking about the
Security.
annual cost of living. I mean, the data, we're not just looking at a month, the last month. We're looking
No.
at year to
No,
date.
it's a, based on a 5-year average of the consumer price index as determined in December of each year and incorporated into the salary being paid effective at the start of each fiscal year covered by this agreement. So it's a 5-year average rather than going May and the 5 years previously, it's December and the 5 years previously.
I leave that to smarter people than I am. I take it that you're right.
Me too.
You were the one who said that we should make a change to the contract rather than do something else.
It's your money.
It really is just It is a housekeeping.
Now that the issue has been sort of separated from an annual like recalculation, now that it's in a contract, it's like, it's separated from the time that the evaluation is done. It's now just a matter of like being able to plug that number and have a known number and be able to plug it in December when I submit the budget to the town. Because it's always been a problem. We've tried different things to fix it, and we've never been able to do it. And part of the reason was because it was always an unknown number, because it was going to rely on the evaluation.
So you're saying that this makes more sense in terms of bookkeeping and all the stuff that you have to report, that it would make more sense to do it this way?
It saves the step of having to go and adjust and to find money or adjust the budgets in some other way later in the year. This is just like we know we have a known number, we plug it in at the beginning of the budget process, and then we're done.
And you would get the raise at the same time that the contract was. It wouldn't change when you actually got the raise.
No,
It would just be with the next fiscal year.
being paid effective at the start of each fiscal year covered by this agreement.
Is a motion necessary?
It's a sign
It is, and I just realized that I didn't change the date on this to the 15th. It still says the 9th. So we will vote. I will print out corrected ones with right July date on it. And if they will be here tomorrow morning, and if at some point you all have a chance to stop by and sign it.
Is this something you have in Google?
No, it's not in Google. But I'm gonna be here tomorrow anyway. I'll just bring one.
Okay, I just figured if you had access to it, you could print it
Oh, I
at the
see.
end of the meeting and just sign it then, but I just
Um,
don't know how feasible that is, rather than making people take a second trip.
Is this the document you sent to Joan?
Gosh, this is the thing, I thought I talked to her in person. I talked to her, I don't know that I sent her the document, I think I just went over with the question of like,
Well, can we make the motion?
Yes, I've got it. Ooh. Oh, no, that's the contract. No, it isn't. It's okay. We can do it.
okay.
We can go print. But I move that we amend the director's current contract by replacing the word May with the word December in section 5 compensation in order to calculate the cost of living increase and incorporate it into the budget.
So moved.
Any further discussion?
Do you have a thought? I just keep like looking at you, you seem like you have like.
I'm just
puzzling myself.
confused. I feel like Susan and I are probably equally confused, because I feel like I sat through this, like, so many times, it's like spinning around in my head somewhere, that's all. Do you feel that way too? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it was
This
like,
a
Alan was
huge
like, I'm
debate.
switching this around, and like.
It used to be that the review and the merit increase took place at a time that did not allow for that information to be incorporated into.
No, I hear you. I'm like trying to, I think it's just pretty, trying to make me figure it all out. I'm gonna just,
Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it makes?
I'm just gonna vote yes.
As I
think
understand it,
makes
it
sense.
makes more sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think I just feel, that's how I felt, that I just kind of feel
I know,
squirrely,
that's
that's all.
PTSD. I get that. I get
feel
that.
squirrely.
It was hard.
But it also should be recognized that I have, through my own suggestions in the past, shot my own foot. So I am not, in this regard, I am very fallible.
Responsibility.
for zone salary calculations. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Do we have anything else to talk about? Can I go log on to the computer and print?
And motion to adjourn.
For Susan to decide if we're done.
Oh, so my question was on Amy Parsons. Do somebody reach out? We had talked about in June about contacting Amy Parsons and just reiterating that our understanding was she was the liaison.
Yeah, she came, she and I had a meeting, a very good, positive meeting, back, I don't know, it must have been in June. And yeah, it was good.
That's excellent to hear.
Yeah, she's actually gonna do,
Story.
she's gonna do be one of the guest star, what are they calling it? Celebrity story time.
Readers.
And yeah, at an upcoming August, I think it's an August date. So.
Thank you. That was my question.
Motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, don't go yet though. I have to go print out the stuff.